What's up guys, Freezy here. This video is going to be a guide on the newly released 5-star character Tartaglia, and I'm just gonna call him Childe because it is easier to say. After raising Childe and playing testing him for about a week, I found the character to be quite extreme, and to get the most out of him is kinda tricky. So in this video, I'll mostly be analyzing the playstyle and team building around Childe. But before we start, all the info in this video are for Childe that is below Constellation 4. At Constellation 4 and 6, he plays like a completely different character, and since I don't have those constellations, I cannot test the optimal setup with those upgrades. With that out of the way, let's start with the character introduction. Childe is a unique character. He starts with ranged form while using a bow, and using his elemental skill switches him to melee form. The range form sucks, so we really want to use the melee form. The big problem with this character is that his elemental skill has cooldown, so we cannot switch forms freely. And switching character puts the melee form into cooldown, so it is very important to use the buffing skills before switching to Childe. To maximize his damage, we first have to understand the cooldown mechanic. The cooldown for his melee form is the duration stayed in melee plus 6 seconds, and if we go over the 30 seconds limit, there is an extra 9-second penalty to the cooldown. So regardless of what you do, there will be a minimum 6 seconds cooldown on his melee form. In practice, if we want to maximize his damage, Childe should never stay in melee form for more than 15 seconds. We can exit melee form by pressing the skill again or switching out, and switching character is the best way to exit melee form. In the melee form, Childe has top tier DPS in Genshin, and that is due to his Riptide effect. Riptide is a mark that is applied to the enemy when Childe does a few specific attacks. And attacking a marked target with different attacks will deal bonus damage. In practice, applying Riptide is usually done through the range ultimate or a critical hit in melee form, so it is very easy to do. The best part about Riptide is the interaction with his melee form. In the game, this is called Riptide Slash. Riptide Slash occurs when Childe hits a marked enemy with melee hit. It deals AoE hydro damage and can only trigger once every 1.5 seconds per enemy. Now the key word here is per enemy. When fighting a group of enemies, this damage is absolutely insane because we can trigger this effect on multiple marked enemies. Here we have a bunch of slimes. Mark them first with range ultimate, switch to melee form and attack. We can see a lot of damage numbers popped up, and that is because Riptide Slash triggers on every enemy that was hit by our normal attack. So when enemies are stacked together, every enemy will take damage from multiple Riptide Slashes, causing a ton of damage. Lastly, let's go over the ultimate, which is essentially a nuke. The ultimate, when used in range form, deals less damage and will refund 20 energy on cast. When used in melee form, it does more damage, but no refund on energy. After a lot of playtesting, I found the range ultimate to be much more useful. Since Childe has fairly low energy generation, it is better to use more range ultimates and abuse the vaporize multiplier. If you have the second constellation upgrade on Childe, the melee ultimate becomes much better, but for the most part, stick with the range ultimate. Now since Childe does not have any off-field ability, he can only be played as a main damage dealer, but due to his long cooldown on melee form, he cannot solo carry a team like the Nuke or Childe. Team building around Childe revolves around 3 things. First is another well-geared damage dealer, so you have something to do during the cooldown. Second is abusing hydro reactions to maximize his damage per cooldown. Third is having a pyro type in the team for the vaporized nuke with his ultimate. Sounds complicated? Let's go over a few examples. Here we have a wombo combo strategy between 3 ultimates, starting with Venti ultimate into Bennett ultimate for pyro application, and follow up with a big vaporized nuke. After that, summon Oz with Fischl and use melee Childe to quickly finish off the enemy. Now regather energy for the ultimates and repeat the process. A very simple but effective strategy. Keep in mind to position Childe so his attack can hit multiple targets at once if possible, so we get more Riptide Slash damage. To summarize, Venti is an extremely good partner for Childe when fighting big enemies. He is very good at grouping enemies together for more Riptide damage, and applying Pyro for more Vaporize. However, against smaller enemies, Venti will lift them up, and Childe can't really hit them, so keep that in mind. Here we have a freeze strategy. Since Childe does hydro damage with every melee hit, combine that with Chi-Chi, he can freeze the enemy for a very long time. This is a simple way to deal with some of the high threat enemies in the game. For example, the floor 9 boss duel is very annoying to fight normally, but with the freeze control it becomes trivial. To summarize the best support for Childe, we can use Chi-Chi for crowd control. Diona and Kea ultimate works okay as well, but not as flexible as Chi-Chi. When we actually get a good ice type damage dealer for the double ice critical rate bonus, the strategy will be a lot better. Another key support for Childe is Bennett. He can apply Pyro easily, and the damage buff really fits the burst playstyle. Playing Childe without Bennett is like bread without butter. They really are best pals. For the last example, let's check out the double nuke strategy with Mona. This is basically adding Childe ultimate after the vaporized Mona ultimate, so we get two big vaporized nukes. I don't have the best gear for Childe and Mona, so the damage is kinda average. But this strategy can hit some really big numbers with maximum gear. Currently we don't have any content that really uses this playstyle, but maybe MiHoYo will add some boss arena in the future, and we can use Childe as a secondary nuke to insta-kill bosses. So to summarize the playstyle for Childe, open the combo with applying Pyro and use range ultimate. After that, switch to the all-field damage dealer and use their skill, and swap back to Childe. Attack with melee form until the supportive skill runs out. After this, Childe will need to cool down for about 15 to 18 seconds. You can swap between characters and gather energy for the next cycle, or switch to a secondary damage dealer to fill in during the cooldown. After the cooldown ended, we can repeat from the start. Here is a summary for the most Childe-friendly characters. In my opinion, Bennett, Beidou, and Venti are currently the top 3 best pals for Childe, but which to bring really depends on the enemy setup. But regardless of enemy setup, we should always bring a Pyro type with Childe for the Vaporize ultimate. Lastly, here are the teams I had most success with Childe in Abyss. Note that my Beidou is not leveled yet, and she should perform better than Fischl when paired with Childe. My next guide will probably be on Beidou, so stay tuned for that. For the final part of the video, it's gear recommendation time. The weapon choice is pretty much the same for all bow damage dealers. Skyward Harp is the best choice above all. Rust, Stringless, and Ammo's Bow are all decent with their own perks. One thing to note is that Sacrificial Bow does not work with the melee form cooldown, so it is not good on Childe. Since we don't have the Hydro set yet, the best set that suits Childe is the Noblesse Oblige set. You can mix in 2 pieces of Gladiator as well, but overall the difference is not so significant. Most of the damage from Childe comes from the big Vaporize crit with the ultimate, so the ideal build will be Noblesse 2-piece plus Hydro set 2-piece. Now Childe is a bit more gear dependent than other damage dealers, because he is so burst heavy. Aside from the usual golden ratio for damage dealers, we really want to get more critical damage from the artifact substats to amplify that nuke. Also, having 30 to 40% energy recharge on substats will make the range ultimate a lot more spammable. And that's it for this video. My next guide will probably be on the character Beto, but I'm still open for suggestions. If you have any good ideas on guides, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.